Good evening, it's Adam here again with another quick instant movie review for you. So tonight I caught the third of the Kenneth Branagh Hercule Poirot trilogy. This one is called A Haunting in Venice. It basically tells the story of famous Belgium detective Hercule Poirot, who has now delivered himself into a self-imposed exile in Venice. Not a bad place to hide away. Where he then gets a visit from an old friend played by Tina Fey. She's kind of like a murder mystery author who's, in need of the next big hit. And she invites Poirot along to a seance during Halloween, in which some very spooky stuff happens, and basically the two need to work out whether or not the seance is real, whether or not this charlatan played by Michelle Yeoh is in fact being able to communicate with a mother's dead daughter, or if it's all a bit hokey, and if indeed Hercule Poirot believes that facts are facts and theories are theories, and supernatural does not exist. Will he or won't he believe? Ooh. So, as I mentioned, this is the third Hercule Poirot film. Kenneth Branagh has starred in and also directed. The first one, of course, being A Murder on the Orient Express, and then Death on the Nile, and then, of course, this one. Now, this is based on the 1969 short story, I think it was, called Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. The interesting thing about this one is it takes a very different a spin on things. It's playing with the genre of horror, really, rather than a murder mystery. And I suppose you can look at all of Kenneth Branagh's films in the Hercule Poirot side of the fence and go, well, he's taking a little bit of an edgy sort of feel to it. And this one certainly markets itself more as a horror film. And I guess this is kind of interesting because, if you're going to be going along to an Agatha Christie film or a film that's in the similar sort of vein as a whodunit as the previous two films, the target audience for those are probably people, dare I say, of adults who are not so maybe, wanting to see a horror film, but more interested in a murder mystery. So interesting marketing strategy, especially seeing it was really ramping itself to look like an amazing horror film, and then a big bloke with a moustache turns up at the end, and that kind of puts you off. So that is very interesting. So we've already got two different genres that we're really playing in. So that's a little bit tricky all on its own, and sort of diverting expectations a little bit. I love Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. I think he is really great. He's certainly the best adaptation that I think I've seen, and the way that each of the films really continues to flush out his character and the backstory. Yeah, now the last film we did have the backstory of the moustache. Do we really need it? Yeah, maybe not. But anyway, it was there. But it did give an extra layer to his character. Now, that very much dealt with PTSD, and it dealt with the trauma that he experienced whilst in the war, and how it sort of comes to play in his mystery solving. And this film very much does a similar sort of thing. It does sort of show that he wants to put himself into exile. He doesn't want to be in this world anymore, and then he's taunted a little bit more, and his character is once again tested, and his beliefs are tested. Everything that he thought was held was true, and he could live in this self-exiled exile and not have to venture into anything new. He was quite fine with that. So this is interesting. The things that really, really annoyed me in this film is the soundtrack. This film soundtrack has got to be one of the worst that I've heard in ages. Nothing seems to fit. And when it does, it's almost saying to you the visuals aren't enough to evoke a reaction. Now, this comes after I've seen an amazing film with an amazing soundtrack, that being Past Lives, where the soundtrack didn't do any of the heavy lifting for the film, that the visuals were speaking enough and just colouring in a little bit, not contextualising what it is that you're watching. Whereas this film just needs to lay it on so thick, but not well, and it didn't need it. Because what we have is a film that is hugely prompting style and an orgy of style. The cinematographer on this, Harris, and I can't remember your last name, who has worked with Kenneth Branagh quite extensively in his film catalogue. He's shot all the other Poirot films. Tends to use every Dutch angle, I think every Dutchman's angle possible, because they are everywhere. And then he uses a lot, sort of almost like a gobo style shot. There's a lot of bit of shaky cam. There's some forced focus, out of focus. There's some different color palettes being used. There's fisheye lenses. There's a whole range of different lenses being used. So it's not really sure what style it wants to sit in. All it basically feels to me like the brief for this film was, I don't want anyone to sit still for very long to get bored. I want the film to constantly move at a rapid pace. If you stop, we're in trouble. You just need to keep going. Just in case a young person has slipped into this Hercule Poirot film and has slight ADHD, so we need to keep everything propelling at an amazing pace. Well, I didn't really need that. And that's one really interesting thing that kind of in reflection also happened with Murder on the Orient Express. It was very, very fast-paced, and then we kind of hit a bit of a block where we were then having conversations with people, and we're having the interrogation scenes with all the key players. And Murder on the Orient, the Death on the Nile took its time a little bit more, I thought, but it was very saturated, and I thought very fake. This film kind of felt like it was trying to be a horror film in every genre play it could possibly find, and put it into a Hercule Poirot film, and it felt a little bit cliched, I believe. So it was very odd. It felt very rushed, and looking at the schedule for this film, it was greenlit in October 2022. So it's not even a year old, and we've gone through development, we've gone through scripting by Michael Green, who did the screenplay, and we've gone through, Kenneth Branagh just absolutely flooring it to get this film done, made, and out. Very fast turnaround. It did feel very episodic. It didn't feel overly relevant. And it just felt like we've used every single cinematic trick in the book in the space of a very short amount of time. So whilst this might be very heavy on style and a want to demonstrate that, hey, we can make a horror film with a Hercule Poirot thing, it lacks a lot of substance. And I could see so many of the the plot devices in play, and who the murderer was from the get-go. It was pretty obvious to me. One saving grace once again is Kenneth Branagh. The man knows how to act his way around this character so beautifully, and I would quite comfortably just sit and see a film with Hercule Poirot having a conversation with people, to be honest with you. The rest of the players are fine. Jamie Dornan is okay. Tina Fey is in an interesting role, something I haven't seen her do before, so that's fine. But the music, the cinematography, that just did not work for me. So I found it very cliched, which is a shame because I do like the Hercule Poirot in Kenneth Branagh, but I'm yet to see the winning film in this particular trilogy. I think Murder on the Orient Express is still probably my favourite. Anyway, I'd probably give this one a 6 to a 6.5 out of 10. I couldn't go any higher than that, but try harder. Okay, have a great night.